Hi, this is Dovid Orlofsky, and welcome to the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. And whether you're watching with our friends over at Torah Anytime or wherever you watch or listen to your podcast, as always, thank you for joining together with us for this special experience. And we are in Sfiras HaOmer. We are counting every day because every day counts. I didn't make that up, but it has a nice ring to it, don't you think? So the period we're going through now is the period of preparation for Torah. And that's it. This is from Shavuos. In fact, it's amazing. The Ramban says that Sfiras HaOmer is like a long Chol HaMoed, going from Pesach to Shavuos. It's sandwiched in between, which is a way of approaching it that we know that we're counting from Pesach to Shavuos. It's connected. So therefore, the days of Sfiras HaOmer are not just counting, but there's work to do. And what is the work to do? We've spoken about this in the past. These days are the Derech Eretz Kadma LaTorah. You have to work on yourself in order to be able to receive the Torah. Now, I may have pointed this out before. I feel like I have, but sometimes you have that feeling of deja vu where you feel like you've said something and you're not really sure. So I feel like I've spoken about this before. I'm not really sure. Sometimes you get that feeling of deja vu where you think you've said something before. The story of Rabi Akiva is an absolutely astounding story on a lot of levels, and I'm just going to focus on one small aspect. Rabbi Akiva has no yichus. He can't read aleph beis. He's a shepherd, which is not like, one of those careers with a big future, most people, when they're considering their career path, don't think shepherding. Maybe that's for you. So he really didn't have a lot going for him. And comes Rachel, who is smart, and she's frum, and she's rich, and she's beautiful. It doesn't say that, but if you're rich and you're smart, then must not be you're beautiful. It goes without saying. And she's ready to get married. She wasn't already married, which means that she had just must have come of age, those of you who are doing Yivamis and Daf Yomi. So you know that a girl is supposed to get married when she's a Na'ara, between 12 and 12 and a half. After 12 and a half, she's a Bulgaria. She's already over the hill, and people are getting desperate talking about the shidduch crisis, So Mustama, she must have been about 12. This guy's 40. And she could get any shidduch in the world. Her father is a famous guy. He's rich, Kaballas HaTorah. She has everything going for her. And she decides she wants to marry this Akiva. And he says, listen, I'll marry you, but I want to marry Talmid Chacham, so you have to agree to go off and learn Torah. He says, look, I'll tell you the truth. It's really the best offer I've gotten today. I haven't obviously gotten a lot of offers. Yeah, okay. So she goes to break the news to her father. And her father says, absolutely not. There's not a chance. I want you to marry a guy with yichus. I want you to marry a Talmid Chacham. I want you to marry somebody from a good family. All the things that go with it that we look for in a shidduch. And she says, I'm going to do this anyway. He says, you do and I'll disown you. He says, well, then I'll sell my hair. He says, that's not like a steady income. It's only going to take you so far. So she does it anyway. And we teach this story to our daughters in school. Now, picture for yourself. A girl comes back from seminary. She's in Shidduchim. And she says, Tati, when I was in Eretz Yisrael, we were on a tiyul, and I met this shepherd. And I think I'm going to marry him. He's 40 years old, can't read, but he seems like a really nice guy. And he agreed to go off and learn Torah if I marry him. So right away, the father calls up the seminary and says, you people crazy? What are you doing? He goes, no, of course, nobody really expects you to do that. Then why are we teaching this story? If it's not something that we would endorse for our own children. It's something think about. You always got to be careful when you have these stories. Yeah, this mother, son went off to Israel and became very frum, and she goes to the rabbi, says, I don't know what to do. He davens all the time, and he's learning all the time, and he won't shake, Aunt Sylvia's hand, and he won't, go with us to the beach club. He's just like he's crazy. So the rabbi says, well, I do all those things. He says, no, but he means it. So why are we teaching these stories? If one of my kids tried this, we'd kill them, and we'd kill the seminary, and we'd kill the teachers. Why is the story there? So there's an unusual set of circumstances. Sometimes the Gemara will bring a story, and they'll point out that this is an unusual set of circumstances. Let me give you an example. And as Mr. Wizard used to say, kids, don't try this at home. The Gemara in Ksuvas discusses what they used to do by a chasana to be mesameach chasam kala, and one of the Amoraim used to pick up the kala on his shoulders and dance with her. Very unusual thing, and the talmidim said, Rabbi, can we do that? And he says, sure. If she's like a piece of wood to you, do you think she's like a piece of wood to you? Maybe balsa. No, I mean oak. So you bring in a story, and the Gemara is quick to say, and we don't do that. Yeah. There's a message. The message is that you're supposed to be mesamechas and kala, and you have to know how to draw the lines. Sometimes the dancing at weddings can get a little crazy, where certain gedarim literally are broken down. I don't mean figuratively. Sometimes they break down the gedarim figuratively, but sometimes they break them down literally. And there's, all this kind of mixed kind of dancing going on, which is, as the Kashrus newsletter says, not recommended. So, so what's the point of the story? What was Rachel thinking? She's a smart girl, She knew he would become a Talmid Chacham. Why? Because he had outstanding middos. And she was able to see that. He was so good that he would, for sure, if he learned Torah, be Kona Torah. Now, I mentioned already, my friend Rabbi Redman has a WhatsApp where he'll send you one of the middos that we're supposed to be working on during Sfiras HaOmer. We're towards the end, but I'm sure you still have the opportunity to sign up. And every day, the 48 Devarim Torah Niknas Behen that you need to be able to acquire Torah, they're supernatural. These are not study habits. Yeah, you don't need simcha to be good in math. That was the book, A Beautiful Mind, where this guy was nuts, but he was a very good mathematician. You could be very depressed and crazy and be a fine mathematician. The Tahara is not going to help you if you want to learn English literature. Yeah. My wife had a minor in English literature, and she had to ask the professor to be excused from reading certain books. Yeah. So these things are supernatural because Torah is supernatural. And it's not talking about techniques to learn Torah. It's talking about changes to make in yourself. And the more that you're masak in your middos, the more Torah you will be able to receive. Right? It could very well be we said these points in the past. I mean, we did 172 of these. That's a lot. And it taught me an amazing thing. I could just talk forever. At the beginning I thought, it's probably going to be hard to just keep talking. And it turns out, no, it's really very easy. And so people complain I repeat myself. Yeah, I repeat myself. Of course. What have I got, writers? I heard a comedian say that a good comic over the course of a year could maybe develop an hour of good material. And then you stick somebody, on TV and he's got to do an hour every single day. It's impossible, right? So they have writers. The top comedian in America when there was radio, before there was TV, there was radio, was Jack Benny. And he had very good writers. He paid a lot of money to get the best writers in the business. And he had this ongoing feud with Fred Allen, who was very good at making up his own material. So they were in one of these feuds and they were yelling at each other. And Fred Allen was wiping the floor with him. And finally, Jack Benny said, "You wouldn't say that if my writers were here." I don't have any writers. I don't have any staff. Yeah. There's just Mikhail, and then I show up. And that's it. That's the entire staff you're looking at right here. Yeah. Of course, if there's anybody who would like to help the Rabbi Orlofsky show move to the next level, if you want to take a look to the interview I just recently did with Art Scroll, you can see they have even big green screen than we have. They make it look even more realistic. Even me, I look like I'm actually there. Anyway, so happy to set up a Rabbi Orlofsky studio, and we'll name it after you. And or you can just give me the cash, and I'll maintain the same level that we're doing now, which I'm also okay with. I can go either way. But the fact of the matter is that the more you're metaken yourself, then the more Torah you're going to be mekabel, because it's Kaballas HaTorah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to give you Torah on Shavuos. He's going to pour it down on you. And all you can do during this time is make yourself the best person you can be. Yeah? Okay. So it could be I've given this idea over in the past. But I always like to try to give something that I know nobody's heard recently. This is a story that just happened this past week. So I know nobody could say, "Oh, I heard this story already." No, you didn't. It just happened. Middos are an interesting thing. And I've established this in the past, and we know it to be true. There's no such a thing as equality. People are not equal. Yeah? There are people who are born with unusual intellect and unusual drive. I have a pretty good intellect. I don't have much of a drive. I had a guy in yeshiva when I was there used to complain. He goes, "I wish I had your head." I said, "It's better to have a broken down carriage and 4 strong horses to pull them. I've got a beautiful carriage and I've got a puppy. You know what I mean? It doesn't move it very far." So it's a whole different thing. But some people have different kind of challenges. Now, those of you who are parents, you know this, right? One kid comes out, go go gaga, go gaga. They smile right away. They're very sweet. They sleep about 12 hours a night. You know what I mean? And when they get up, they're like, "Oh, I think he wants a bottle." Yeah, go. Yeah. Just absolutely delightful. You can't wait for another one. And then the second one comes. And they're made of different stuff. And every parent knows this, right? So I was born with a serious anger problem. I used to have temper tantrums as a kid, and a young adult, and an old adult. That was one of my nisyonos, one of the many challenges that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave me. And I have worked on it. I really have. I used to get upset a lot, and it's very seldom that I get upset. Very seldom. It happens. Especially since my heart attack. Since my heart attack and my bypass operation, when 2 doctors told me I should have died, it's changed my position in life because, well, how important is it? And you realize things that used to aggravate you and things that get you upset. Who cares? At the end of the day, who cares? And I've made reference to this in the past. There was a movie with Bill Murray, a famous movie called Groundhog's Day, where he has a terrible day, and he wakes up, and it's the same day, Groundhog's Day. And he keeps reliving this day. Now, somebody made a cheshbon of what he finally accomplishes on that one day. It would have taken him 40 years, which means for 40 years, he wakes up, to the same song on the radio, goes through the same exact day, goes to sleep, wakes up. He can't take it. He tries killing himself. He wakes up the same day. It doesn't matter what he does. And he finally decides, I'm going to embrace it. All I have is this day. I'm going to make it the best day I possibly can. And he does. And at the end, he says, this is the best day I ever had. And then it's tomorrow. And the Kodesh Baruch Hu does the same thing to us. He gives it to you over and over and over again until you figure out how to make it the best day that you can. And so you have to keep going through the same nisyonos. So I had to work very much on learning I am not in control of events. And that's one of the reasons people get angry, because they feel like things are out of control. And you try as best as you can not to get upset and to keep things in perspective. And it's challenging, those of us who have an anger problem. So I really haven't gotten upset in a very, very long time. They redid the pipes in my building, and somehow I no longer have access to my dud shemesh. Now, for those of you in America, you may not be aware of this, but here in Israel, we have a lot of sunshine. So everybody has a solar heater on top of their roof that heats up the water that they can use. It's a certain amount. Now, if you have a large family and they're into, hygiene, so you're going to run out. So people often add in like a gas instant hot water burner. So they redid the pipes in my building, and somehow I no longer have access to my solar heater. All I have is the instant hot water. Fine. So someone put in a unit, and it's not like a big company. It's like Bob's Heaters, and there's like one guy working there, So it stopped working. There's no hot water. And this was whatever it was. It was a Tuesday. We called up the company right away, and they said, well, Yom HaAtzmaut is Thursday. I don't know if we can get there. Sunday. We'll be there Sunday between 10 and 12. Okay. And then we get a message that says, no, Tuesday. That's an entire week without hot water. That's not a good way to go into Shabbos. Yeah. I would do what I used to do when we had a lot of kids living at home, and so we'd always run out of hot water. Everybody was fighting for the showers, so that's when I started going to the mikveh erev Shabbos, and there's lots of hot water there. And if you get there early enough, when it's still translucent, if not actually transparent, but at least it's not murky. And you go in there, and there's I always go to the hot mikveh, there's 4 or 5 people there, and there's this sort of like foam at the top, and when it's really hot, you throw in a couple of carrots and an onion, and you... Anyway, but be that as it may. So it used to be great. And I used to follow the dictum of Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, who used to take a shower before he went to the mikveh and afterwards. And they asked him why. He says, I go before I go to the mikveh because you don't want to go dirty into the mikveh. And then I go to the mikveh, after I come out of the mikveh, I go to the shower because vinishmartem is nafshosechem. You have to watch your health. And I don't know what I picked up in there, so I'd like to wash it off. So, so you go early enough, it's very nice. The problem is, for the past 4 months, I have been battling a issue because, I am a diabetic. And one of the things about diabetics is that we are the opposite of Wolverine. Wolverine has this super healing power. So whatever happens to him, you could shoot him and, he gets better, and stuff like that. But diabetics have the exact opposite. Things don't heal. So I was trying to open a high riser, and I couldn't find where it was. So I turned it on its side in an act of brilliance, and I finally found the latch, and it shut out and hit me in my 2 shins. Now, the shins are the worst place to cut yourself because there's only bone underneath there. So that, coupled with my lack of healing factor, it's months now that I'm dealing with these. So the nurses keep telling me not to, go to the mikveh because, you don't want to get anything inside of the wound. So I didn't have that option. So, okay, so you go through a whole week, so you're waiting. Comes Tuesday, We get a message, the technology came already. I said, how could he have come already? It's 9:45. He came at 9:20. Now I give a shiur till 9:30. I said, we were told between 10 and 12. So the guy calls me up and he says, no, we said from 9 to 12. I said, no, you said from 10 to 12. He says, no, well, that's it. I said, what do you mean that's it? We haven't had water for over a week. How can you leave people like this? What are you getting upset for? You know what? I'm not talking to you. I became very, very upset. I really did. I haven't lost it in a long time, but I was like, that kind of an attitude. It's not like, let's see how we can solve this. And I was saying to him, I said, okay, so what happens now? He goes, I don't know. Listen, I appreciate customer services. Look, I'll go off just a little tangent here. I may have talked about this during our Aliyah series that I remember, but there's not necessarily a customer-centric attitude in a lot of the businesses here because it goes back to the founding of the state. The founding of the state, there was shortages of everything, like America today, but there were shortages of everything. So I remember when I came here, when I was first married in 1982, it was a 5-year waiting list for Bezek to put in a phone in your house. So you wanted a refrigerator, so you signed up. And when they got a refrigerator, they sent it to you. If it wasn't the color you ordered, if it was dented, you took it anyway. Because that's it. There was shortage. I have a cousin made Aliyah in 1969. She says there was like one textile plant. So you'd go out and buy a dress. And then you'd see a man walking down the street, and his tie was the same as your dress. And then you go to a cafe, the tablecloth was the same as your dress. And you walk into the bank, the drapes were the same as your dress. That burnt orange look that they used to have in the 60s and 70s, if you remember. Anyway, so that's it. So it was a shortage. So therefore, they were always doing you a favor if they sold you something. So a lot of people still have that attitude. Anyway, so I got upset. I admit I lost my temper, and I wasn't happy about it because I'd gone a long time. When they have those things like 132 days without an accident, so see how long I could go without getting upset. And I'd gone a very long time, but this was a problem. Yeah, it was obviously it pushed me. Every now and then something will push you, but that's because I have that midah of kas. Now, I was discussing this with somebody once, around my age, and he said to me, that's so interesting. What's it like to get angry? I've never gotten angry in my life. There are some people, when they learn about atzlus, laziness, they can't relate to it. Girls tell me when they're in seminary, sometimes you have one of these roommates who are always happy. They get up and they're full of energy. Oh, look, the sun's rising. Anybody want to see? Let's open all the windows and let in the fresh air. And all the girls are lying there in that dead position, their face epoxied to the pillow. And they look at each other and they say, tonight she dies. But they don't know what it is to be lazy. They're full of energy. Excitement. It's not any sign for them. So here's the thing, and I've mentioned this. Life's not fair. So everybody is given middos, and middos is from the lashon of measure. Middos are measurements. Because everybody has different levels of middos, and you have to decide how much of it I'm going to use, in which situation, and some of them I need to fix. Metakein your middos. I have to adjust them. It's so interesting. People with borderline personality disorder, they say they're not regulated. They have to learn how to regulate themselves. So that's what middos are. I have to work on the thermostat. So I have enough gaiva that I have a sense of self-worth, but not so much that I look down at other people and think I'm superior. I need enough passion that I care about things without that turning into anger. Because the opposite of that is apathy. People who are apathetic don't get angry. I have to have enough of a drive for money to make sure that I make enough money to support my family, but not so much that I'm chasing a dollar, that I become cheap and I'm afraid to spend anything, which is the opposite. And all middos have to be there, and everything has a purpose. What's the positive side to atzlus? Next time you want to do an avera, say, yeah, I'll get to it. Not right now. So every midah that you have is there for a purpose, for you to be able to use it, to be able to develop. And it's not fair. And certain people have to work very hard. So there's a famous story with Moshe Feinstein, where he had finally gotten a copy of a very rare sefer. And I have to explain this for people even in my age group. When my mother went to school, every desk had an inkwell. Now, you didn't actually have a quill, but you had a pen that just had a point, and you would dip it in, and you wrote. That's how mankind wrote for all of writing history for thousands of years until about 50 years ago, when they finally came out with the ballpoint pen that actually works. And they had a fountain pen where it would hold the ink inside, but if you pushed it too hard, then the whole thing came a big splat. But the fact that you could regulate the amount of ink that was coming out, so when I grew up, that's all they had. I never saw a fountain pen. I never saw an inkwell. The only thing I ever saw. But okay, that's it. When you look at these classics and you realize my 1,000-page book was written with a quill and an inkwell, filling it in, it's absolutely amazing. So he of course was writing teshuvas, and his son said that he'd be in the middle of writing a teshuva, and somebody would come to speak to him, and he'd put down the quill and he would talk to them, and then he would pick up right where he left off. So he had the inkwell and he had the quill or the pen, whatever it was that he would dip in, and that's how he wrote all of his teshuvas. And somebody comes in to talk to him, and they knock over the inkwell all over this rare sefer. And he was so apologetic, and he says, okay, it happens, and he tells the Gabbai, you have to get someone to clean this up, etc. Now, the Gabbai was horrified because he knew what this sefer meant to Rav Moshe. And finally, the fellow leaves, and the Gabbai says, Rabbi, I don't know how you did that. I mean, I know what this meant. How did you not lose your temper? It's like you're not a human, you're a malach. Rav Moshe looked at him and said, you know how many years it took me to be able to do that? You think I just started now? I've been working for years and years to learn that self-control. Elia Lopian had to go to Hadassah for an operation. And he's waiting by the bus stop in Meir Sharm, and the bus isn't coming. And everyone's getting nervous, and everyone's looking down the street. What time do you have? What time do you have? Where's the bus? And everyone knows where the bus is at. He's sitting and learning. And the time is getting later and later. By now, he's already passed the time for his operation. And he looks up the street for the bus like everybody else, and he goes, Oi, the Altuv Kelm would have been so disappointed in me. So little self-control. But you have to develop that. That's not natural. And having said that, everyone has different middos and different challenges. So it's during this time we're supposed to be working on our middos. And some things are harder for other people. And that's how you have to judge yourself. Lefum tzara agra, it says in Pirkei Avos. As much effort as you put in, that's the reward you're going to get. And so this is our avoda during this time, to try to make ourselves into people who are roy to be makabel the Torah, to be a kli, kibul, where there's enough room for the Torah to be able to go in. Okay, now we move to the question and answer section of our program. Anonymous asks, are you allowed to use Maaser money for things like shiurim, shul dues? Let's talk about shiurim. because I just got this question. We started a new tefillah series, which I'm a biased bystander. I've asked other people, and they said it's really very good. So somebody wrote to me and said, can I pay for it with Maaser money? The answer is absolutely. I don't know about other shiurim, but definitely mine. What do I mean? The mitzvah of Maaser Ksofim comes out from Maaser Sheni. It's not Maaser Ani, it's Maaser Sheni. What's Maaser Sheni? Maaser Sheni is that you would take your money and bring it to Yerushalayim and buy food to eat in Yerushalayim, because we wanted you to have the Yerushalayim experience, to fortify yourself spiritually. Essentially, you were spending the money on yourself. So if you're using your Maaser Sheni money, bon agid, to pay somebody to learn with you, or to go to a class, or anything like that, for sure you can use Maaser money for that, and that's ultimately the best use of it, is to be able to use it on yourself. Anonymous asks, how do you make your coffee? Well, I've made this very clear many times. I drink Folgers. I happen to like Folgers. Everybody in my family drinks Taster's Choice, which, as far as I'm concerned, you could just get some brown food coloring and add it to water. It's the same exact thing. Yeah, with a Splenda. It has no taste. People say to me, it's bitter. I said, it's not bitter. It tastes like coffee. That's why. So what do? I had a set of silverware I got from my mother, and one by one it disappeared. Silverware is always disappearing. I finally figured out why. It's taken me a long time to figure out why. Because, for example, when you scooping things out, sometimes you leave the spoon inside. And then when you dump it, the spoon goes with it. Or when you were peeling vegetables and things, and you leave the little knife or the peeler there, and then you brush it all into the garbage, it goes with it. So that's why I think I lost it. Anyway, I've lost them all. I'm down to 1 teaspoon. And this teaspoon has exactly the right amount of coffee. I've tried other spoons. I guess I could fill it up and put it into a measuring cup and do this. I've tried this a couple of times, but I'm not a scientist to be able to get it just right. But this is exactly, it has to be heaping, and then you shake off a little. I don't know exactly how to describe this. And I put it into the cup. I used to put in a Splenda, but I finally returned to my roots. I use sucrosite, which is actual saccharin, which is probably the best of the sweeteners without that as much of an aftertaste. I add water about 3/4 of the way, and then I add milk, and I wait for it to cool off. And this way I'm different than my wife. My wife gets a boiling hot cup of coffee and finishes it, drinks it right down. I can't do that. It's too hot for me. I have to let it cool off a little bit, and then I drink it. That's more information than anybody deserves. Okay, Anonymous asks, is every Jew chayav to know first aid because of vinishmartem as nafsho seichem? I don't know if I want to say chayav, but the story goes that the reason the Rambam became a doctor is because he saw his brother die and he didn't know how to help him. And that inspired him to be able to learn medicine, to be able to help. The story that I heard is the fellow who started Hatzolah was because he had a neighbor who was dying and they were waiting for the ambulance, and by the time it got there, it was too late, and he decided to create something where he could get people there fast enough. So I don't want to say Yechayev. I think it's a good thing. I think we have to set up something like a Hatzolah, something where I live in Har Nof. We have something called the Chavesh, which is a similar organization where we can get people medical care, but not everybody has a chush for it. So to say that everybody has to do it, I'm always hesitant to say everybody. Dovid Bressler asks, does the fact that Rabi Akiva had 24,000 talmidim die reflect on him at all? Why couldn't he give them mussar so they could do teshuva and help prevent their death? The short answer is yeah, of course it reflects on him. The fact that they say Rabbi Akiva's 24,000 talmidim died, it's Rabbi Akiva's 24,000 talmidim. That means there was something that Rabbi Akiva was not able to impart in them of this v'ahavta l'recha kamocha. And I'm sure he tried. Now, I'm talking on a psychological level. It could be on a metaphysical level. The 24,000 talmidim were in place of the 24,000 people who died in the Magefa by Zimri and Pinchas. It could be because these 24,000 talmidim learned a Torah that was outside of this world. It says Rabi Akiva not only darshaned every letter in the Torah, he darshaned the tugin on top of the letters, the little crowns. Rabbi Moshe Shapiro said once, what are the crowns on top of the letters? It's things that are out of this world. This world was created with the Torah. The tugin are things that are out of this world. So they were memela out of this world, and that was a Torah that the world couldn't handle. The Gemara says that Rishon Bar Yochai used to sift the words of Rabbi Akiva 13 times to remove the psoilus. Do you think there was psoilus in the words of Rabbi Akiva? No, but it means that it was on a level that people are not ready to hear. And those of us who work in Kaballas HaTorah know very often you have to be careful what you tell to who, because not everybody can handle hearing everything. So, whether it was a metaphysical reality or a physical reality, obviously this was a tragedy for Rabbi Akiva. And when something happens, you always have to ask yourself, why did this happen to me? Right? One last one. Anonymous asks, should a bas-mitzvah present be something that has to do with mitzvahs like a Nach, or can it be jewelry? I'm asking specifically about bas-mitzvah presents and not bar mitzvah. I think most people agree that a bar mitzvah present should be a sefer or money. Also, the question is asked on the premise that giving presents for bar and bat mitzvah is a thing. Yeah. There's no mention of a bat mitzvah celebration or ceremony in halacha. It's never been a thing. It's of more recent vintage. So if you're looking for the sefer bas-mitzvah kehilchasa, I don't think it's been written yet. It might. There are no halachas. Why are you giving a gift? The reason you always give a gift is to make shalom between people. So you're giving a gift that will make the person happy. And so I say the same thing, by the way, by a bar mitzvah. If you're going to give a sefer, try to find a sefer that the kid might actually want to read. There's an old joke that, a bar mitzvah boy, goes back to this farm store with his 19 meshach chachmas that he got to, cash them in for something he might want. But I always try to look and say, what might this person actually want? And if the kid is someone to whom svarim are not going to speak to them, you could argue it's still an advantage because maybe one day he will and he'll have them. And if you give them something that's going to have meaning to them, that's also a possibility. When it comes to a girl, the best gift is something that she wants to get. And that's going to depend on the person. I know a young lady whose husband gave her a gift in the yichud room. Well, sometimes they give you a necklace, sometimes they give you a watch. There's different gifts that they give. He gave her a set of mishnayos. Now that says something about this girl. More so than it does about anything else. Yeah. My brother-in-law of Dovid Bressler, my father-in-law, when I got engaged, he says, and I want to get you a gold watch. Now, I didn't know anything, having never been married before. Evidently, that's a thing you do. I didn't know that. I just thought he was so impressed with me and liked me so much, he wanted to buy me a gold watch. Yeah. No. It's because there's protocol. It's considered protocol, and that's the protocol. So when my wife's sister got engaged to Dovid Bressler, so my father-in-law said, I want to buy you a gold watch. And he says, why? He says, because you buy a gold watch, He says, what am I going to do with a gold watch? I'm embarrassed to wear it. He says, could I get that money in svarim? The svarim were more meaningful to him than the gold watch. I still have my gold watch in the safe. The last time I wore it was 1983, I think. I don't remember. Anyway, but, so what the gift that's going to have the most meaning to the person, that's the gift. So if the young lady would appreciate a piece of jewelry, yeah. Ein isha elo tachshitin, the Gemara says. Yeah, jewelry is, and you have Gemaras about the significance of jewelry for women and what it means and things like that. So if she would like jewelry, that's great. If she would like, going back to Rabbi Lichtman, since we're talking about him a lot this week, every one of my kids, when she came Bat-Mitzvah, he used to buy her a set of machzorim with their names on it, which, it was something very meaningful. All my kids still use those. Something like, or he would get the mussar with their name on it, depending on how much you like the kid. But just kidding. But it's something that they have forever because their name on it, so they can't return it. So if you get a Meshech Chachma, make sure and inscribe it. They'll be stuck with 16 copies. But anyway, so you have to know the person. You have to know what the person is, and that's always there's always a challenge, and it's more of a challenge today because our kids get so much that they don't have a chance to want something. I spoke to someone from Old Yerushalayim, and they said, Shabbos, we used to get a treat. My father had a bag of shkedei marak, and at the Suda, they used to give each one of us 3 shkedei marak, 3 soup nuts. Oh, what a treat. And today, kids don't have a chance to even want anything before they even have a chance to think about it. They already have it. So gift giving becomes quite a challenge. And try to figure out what the person wants. All right, that's it for this episode. If you want to find out more about the show, you can go to my website, RabbiOrlofsky.com. You can leave a comment. You can send an email. You can sponsor an episode. You can join our new Tefillah series. And maybe just say a quick word. I know that there are certain people who are hesitant to join the Daf Yomi. I don't know why, because it's a new Daf every single day. And, eventually, every few months you move to a different Masechta. In fact, when we were at the second half of Moed, every month you do a new Masechta. So I don't know, you were like, I didn't join in Brachos. That's okay. There's still plenty of wonderful new material coming up. But people are hesitant. Same thing with the Mesilas Yesharim. They figure I wasn't there from the beginning, It doesn't matter. They're more or less, I set everything up for you when we do it. But I see there's certain hesitation. The Tefillah series, every class is a standalone. We're explaining a different idea in Tefillah that you can immediately take and put in. It's not a binyan. Each one is a standalone, so you can join at any time. So there's still space available until I run out of room in the screen. I'll have to get a bigger computer. But, and somebody said to me, they were surprised, people were making comments. That's right. That's why it's a live share. Otherwise, I could just record it like a podcast and put it on. And if you talk to me at the podcast and I answer you, it's time for you to see a professional. But anyway, this is participatory. All my shiurim online are participatory. So you can sign up for the Tefillah share or either one of the Mesilas Yesharim shiurim or the Daf Yomi share. And that's about it. I think we covered everything for now. Until next time, I am Dovid Orlofsky, and this is the Rabbi Orlofsky Show.
It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Torah and Simcha, ready to go. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Knowledge and wisdom will help you grow. Lots of fun in every episode, and we don't have to rhyme. No, we don't. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show on RabbiOrlofsky.com. Torah anytime, YouTube and more. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Torah and Simcha, ready to go. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Till next time, till we meet again. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show.